I do believe that we need to make sure our people are physically fit. I think in order to, we got to be real careful once you hire an employee and set standards after the fact. I think that we should be encouraging our people to be physically fit. We should make it real easy for them. We should set programs. I've seen all sorts of health plans where they would go along with your insurance, where you'd have discounts if you work out. If we could get to a point where a person is absolutely unfit for duty, a threat to themselves and a threat to the public, at that time, I'm going to have to make a decision to take that employee, contact our corporate counsel and say, how are we going to deal with this person? If we find a person that is physically unfit for duty, we have to be very careful, because if we want to take that person off the road, they may go to a doctor and find out that they have a disability at that point, and we're dealing with that. It's easier to bring an employee in at the beginning, have standards when they're hired. It's difficult to go in after the fact and try to set standards. So my role on my position on that would obviously be, I'm not going to make any decisions on that without corporate counsel decisions, because we might be looking at a disability. It's a medical issue, it's a health issue, but the question then would be, are we going to be willing to pay this person's disability if they can't perform the job any longer when we set standards after the fact? So we need to set standards at the time of the hire.
Well, physical fitness is a tough one. I'm a living proof of it right up here, and people that know me, I've went up and down, and the more active when I'm working full time, I've spent more time in the gym, and I know some people just don't like to do it, but I think it's an issue to address, because actually when you look at use of force issues, if you're using a higher level of force because you're not physically fit enough to use a lower level of force, that could possibly be a lawsuit for our department. And I think for overall health, it is tough when you work the midnight shift. It's tough for people, but it's something that if we encourage one another, work together, work teams, I mean, it's just something, it needs to be addressed. I don't know all the answers. I've tried about every program out there, but some work, some don't. But you just have to keep working on it. People have to encourage one another, because it's a job where if something happens and you have to physically restrain someone, you can really get hurt if you're not in shape. So I think it's a high priority, and I know it's a touchy subject with people, but it needs to be addressed. And I guess how that will be addressed if I'm elected, I would like to look into it. I mean, I'm definitely going to take advice and counsel from corporate counsel, from the other management in the department, but I think it's something that should be addressed.
Professionalism is important to me, and I think it has to be set by example, by myself, by the chief deputy, by jail administrators, the three that are not in the union, but the three that I believe are the face of law enforcement in this county. And when I get a complaint of an officer, this officer gave me a ticket and he lectured me, and I didn't like the lecture. Okay, well then I got to go and look into this thing, and usually who gets it? My chief deputy gets it, he looks into it. I get it, I look into it. We will counsel that deputy on how the appropriate way to talk to people, the appropriate way to give somebody a citation. If you can walk away from a citation and the person says, thank you, you've done your job. That doesn't mean you haven't done your job if they're cussing and swearing at you, which they might be too. But the professionalism part is we have professional people, and we need to set the example as administrators so that they will fall in line, and if we have a problem, we'll work on it. Now, as far as physical fitness, as I look up and down my perfect frame, and the only reason we have red lights and sirens is to get to the donut shop before it closes. But it's a tough subject. And I encourage my guys to lose their weight and to get physically fit. We've tried to instill some programs into the sheriff's office, but met resistance because of the cost of the money. And so there's a lot of issues to this. It really, our contract basically says if you're not, you have to be fit for duty. Well, that's pretty broad. We would like to work on that, but you have to work with the bargaining units to get that done. And I think the bargaining units themselves would like to see it, but we need to develop it so everybody can work to their level to get to where they should belong, because it is very important to be physically fit, not just on the road, because in the road we got all those other little toys we can play with when we have a problem, like tasers, you know. And so in the jail, it's a significant problem. You're in an enclosed environment. You better know how to handle yourself. And training, if you're not physically fit, training will still help you get through what you need to get through.
Law enforcement's a stressful job. There's a lot of things to your body. You know, throughout my short time here in law enforcement over the last almost 13 years, a lot of these officers, deputies, whatever, they retire, they don't live long. You know, you got to encourage your employees to go out and work out, no matter if it's working out in a gym, going out for a walk. You got to encourage them. It's going to make them live longer. It's going to make them perform better. It's going to make them use common sense even better. You know, an unfit officer isn't really doing much for anybody. He's going to get himself hurt or another officer hurt. So you just got to encourage everybody on your department to stay fit. You know, I've been around departments where they've set up these physical fitness tests and stuff for different age groups on the department. You know what? Most of the departments I've seen do that. They never hold true to them. They fudge the system, whatever. So I'm not a big fan of that, but you can encourage your employees to stay physically fit and encourage them. It'll be a life decision for them, and it'll make them live longer.